Welcome to the Emergence Speaker Series. I'm your host, Marina Ormes, and we are here to discuss the Saturn-Neptune conjunction on February 20th, 2026. This is such an important astrological alignment that I have invited several guest speakers to share their insights with you to help you navigate the changing times and work with this energy to shape the future in the best possible ways. More details about this series are available at transformationalastrology.com, where you can sign up for a free account to get advanced access to each speaker's video. That's transformationalastrology.com to get notified and to get advanced access to each video. I'm so excited to welcome our next speaker in this series, Louise Edington. Louise Edington, also known as the Cosmic Owl, is a visionary astrologer, author, and shamanic guide who has been working with astrology for over 30 years. Her work weaves deep myth, astrology, and quantum consciousness into transformative pathways of healing and empowerment. Louise is an OPA peer group leader and mentor. Louise has been OPA certified since late 2021. You can learn more about her at louiseedington.com. Hi, Louise.
Hi, Marina. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So we've got this important transit, and we've talked a little bit about why it's important and why this year is important. And you are going to share with us a little bit about why it's such a big deal in the big picture.
Yeah. So I have some slides, so I'm going to share them for everybody, but Marina's, going to ask me questions along the way. So I'm going to present. So, okay. Here we go. And I can still see you, Marina. So I know when you're trying to go, hey, can I ask you a question?
Perfect.
So I've called this interview chat really, whatever. Why is this one so significant? Because Saturn and Neptune meet about every 36 years, right? It varies a little bit due to retrogrades. So, but this one is at 0 Aries. So we're going to look at that and what makes that, so significant. All right. So, here we go. So I have to give credit, and I'll go back one, to a client and friend, Kat Collette. I actually interviewed her on my YouTube channel about some of this research. She's in my membership group, and I was watching a presentation by another friend, and somebody who was watching it mentioned that there was a conjunction of Saturn and Neptune back in BCE, way BCE. So we're going to look at that. And it kind of got my brain working, my Gemini moon. So I've gone down many rabbit holes since that. And Kat is similar. So she has gone even further with the astrological thing of that. So if you really want to go understand more of that, if you're into astrology, you could go and watch that interview. I'm only going to touch on her discoveries. But basically, she discovered that there are 178 Saturn-Neptune conjunctions that equal 6,378 years. And that is the same as 3 astrological ages. And so each astrological age is approximately 2,100 to 2,200 years. Most people know that we're going into the age of Aquarius. Astrologers completely disagree about when it starts. I don't think it starts on a day. I think it's a process, and I will show that. But basically, what Kat discovered was that these every time there's 3 ages, the Saturn-Neptune conjunctions meet at or around 0 degrees of what's called the cardinal point. So they are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And they are initiating signs. So they're the start of something in some way. So hold that thought. But in other words, this is huge. So anyway, so the turning of the ages, what's called the precession cycle, is approximately 25,800 years. And that means 25,800 years ago, approximately, we were moving into the age of Aquarius last time, and we are moving into it again. So if you think of the zodiac and the whole cosmos as kind of like a medicine wheel or sacred hoop, we've gone all the way around, and we're about to go again. So the as I mentioned, these Saturn conjunctions, Saturn-Neptune conjunctions on these 0 points, the cardinal points, tend to slow down. They tend to take more time to move from the previous sign to the new sign, just as we've seen both Saturn and Neptune kind of dip into Aries and go back into Pisces. And that seems to make them even more potent, other than the fact these 0 degrees of cardinal signs are known in astrology as very potent points. At a more mundane level, they start the seasons, they are the solstices and the equinoxes, but it kind of spreads out like the medicine wheel, with spokes going outwards to greater and greater cycles. So is that clear enough, do you think, Marina, for that bit?
Yes, yeah. It's a big picture cycle.
It's huge.
And it's fascinating that these conjunctions correspond with the changing of the ages. So you're going to tell us a little bit more about what the ages are.
Yeah, well, the ages move backwards through the signs. Okay, the precession of the zodiac means that the ages move slowly, very slowly, over almost 26,000 years backwards through the signs. And we've been in the age of Pisces that's all we've known in our lifetimes, but we've been in the age of Pisces for over 2,000 years. And ages are not signs, I will have to say. Okay, they are different. So if anybody thinks, well, Pisces energy is this, well, the sign of Pisces is a bit different to the age of Pisces. But roughly speaking, the age of Pisces has been the age of the fishes of men, the age of Christianity. But, going backwards through, going through the signs, before that, we had the age of Aries. So we're moving into the age of Aquarius. This is where we are now, if looking at the signs, even though they're different, they're in the same order, but they're in the reverse. We're coming out of the age of Pisces. Before that, we came out of the age of Aries. And before that, we were in the age of Taurus. Now, the last time that Saturn and Neptune met at 0 Aries was at the beginning of the age of Taurus. So 90 degrees away from the age we're going into now, 3 ages away. And these are fixed signs, and fixed signs tend to they've got similar energy in the ages. That was the age of Taurus, was the age of the bull, which is said to be the symbol for the age of Taurus. There was a lot of bull worship. There was a lot of ram worship in Aries, and then we've had the fishes of men, Pisces. Now Aquarius is going to be very different. So, but it's even bigger than that. Kat was unable to go back exactly for thousands and thousands of years. Most astrological ephemerises only go back to, mine goes back to 10,000 BCE. Not quite far enough to look at what we wanted to look at. But basically, it's almost like, the age of Aquarius started almost 26,000 years ago, the first time it was in it. Then 3 ages later, it would have gone into the age of Scorpio. Okay. And then it would have gone into the age of Leo, and we're at the opposite point of that. And that was kind of the peak moment. And I'm going to show you from other research that a lot of cosmologies have this, and they all tend to align, if not exactly with the dates. they all have this cosmology and belief system that the ages starting 26,000 years ago were kind of like ascending consciousness and a golden age, and so on. And after the age of Leo, the age of kings, we started to descend in consciousness in some way, kind of get more, to quote one author who wrote the book Yuga Shift, he said we got stupider. So
and also further away from the center of the galaxy, right?
Yes.
So we're moving away from the divine feminine.
Way away from it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Way away from it. But 3 ages ago, which was 4,361 BCE, the kind of fall away from the divine feminine really increased, because that was the Kali Yuga in the Hindu yugas, and the Hopi and various other cosmologies had the same kind of beliefs. There's a book called The Fourth Turning, a lot of people have heard of that. That's a time of more violence, more corruption, all of these things, but also more a time of more kind of that power over dynamic. I'm reluctant to say a more masculine time, but it's the shadow masculine, I guess, of control, domination, and so on. So it really has nothing to do with men and women per se, although, to a degree. But
Right.
but it's also how we've treated the earth. We've kind of, industrialized it and done it so we had the Dust Bowl and all things like that. We've lost that sense of interconnectedness with all that is dynamic and responsive, if you want to use different terms for masculine and feminine.
Mm-hmm. We might, what we might call more patriarchal approaches. And again, like you say, not putting any judgment on, it's not about men and women, it's about these different energies and the almost kind of the wholeness versus the separation and the split, right?
Yeah, exactly. So moving on. How am I? Okay, here we go. So please, whoever's watching, if you're not into astrology, do not get too wrapped up in this. But I just wanted to show those of you that do know astrology that the fixed stars also kind of move in relationship to us in the same kind of time period. All right. So that's all I'm showing this for. Now, the one I really want to look at is Regulus, which is known as the Royal Star. So back in 4,361 BCE, the fixed star Regulus was at 2 degrees Gemini. And now fixed star Regulus is at 0 Virgo, which is square to where it was 3 ages ago. And these are mutable signs, so they are bringing change. Virgo is a very feminine sign, whereas Gemini was very is a masculine sign, an air sign, even though I really dislike those terms, but in simple kind of energies. And of course, fixed stars don't move, we do. So that's to do with how the precession moves as well. Now, Regulus left Leo after an astrological age and moved into Virgo at the end of 2011. So the big shift I'm talking about is something that has been building. And I believe that I can show that we've kind of been building for quite a long time. But we are really, this Saturn-Neptune conjunction that we have coming up is really going to hurtle us into this more integrated and new beginning for the new time. But again, don't expect everything to be all magic overnight.
Right. Yeah. And then the Saturn-Neptune cycle, 35, 36 years for that to play out. And when we're talking about thousands of years, as we are, 35 years is a blink, right?
Yes.
But for us in our lifetimes, we're going to see change taking place over decades.
and rapidly, I think, yeah, even though it's over decades compared to what we're coming out of. I really feel like this Saturn-Neptune conjunction is signaling kind of the end of the collapse. It's almost like, as we went further and further down towards the end of the Great Age, um, the worst of the descending age became more prominent, and this is a new beginning, because the 0 point of Aries is really the point of creation in the zodiac. So I just kind of feel like it gives people hope that we're kind of on the way out, because I do believe we are, right?
Yeah, right. And
Mm-hmm.
it's an ending, it's a beginning,
Mm-hmm.
which also brings endings, and endings can be scary, right?
Mm-hmm.
As we step into this energy of new creation and what is
Yes.
coming, we don't understand it, and we have to kind
Mm-hmm.
of let go of what we know and what we're familiar with
Mm-hmm.
to embrace this change.
Yeah, and it's all about really adaptability and trust, which is very Neptune as well, that we will be able to build the new structures. Another thing that kind of gives me hope personally is that Saturn has always been described as structure, and it is, but it's also elder wisdom, and it's been portrayed for hundreds of years, because the astrology we practice is also based on very patriarchal myths, patriarchal practices created by patriarchs.
Right.
And so on.
Right.
But Saturn is actually the guide or ruler for Capricorn, which is an earth sign, which is a receptive sign. All earth and water signs are responsive. So just as kind of women have been demonized for centuries, I would say so of these energies. And I think, as astrologers, we really are to bring in a new way of looking at these things. So Saturn is time, elder wisdom. I always think of it as kind of crone energy in a way. And Neptune is very much about creativity and spirituality and intuition and connection with that. So here we really have two feminine planets at the point of creation, right? And Aries, which is new beginnings. So anyway, let's carry on a little bit without getting too complicated with the astrology.
It's very profound. Yeah.
Thank you. So just a little bit more maths for those that want to know. I'm not going to read it. If somebody wants to, understand this more, they can take a screenshot of this. It's just kind of how the fixed stars move from our perspective. Okay, so they move 50.3 arc seconds per year. Most people say about a degree a year, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like all these things in astrology, none of the cycles are quite exact. They kind of shift a little bit every time. So, but if somebody wants that, they can have it. If you're not an astrologer, gloss over this bit.
Just know it is a big picture.
It is a very big picture.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just talk a little bit about the historical events around the last conjunction at 0 Aries. So, as you can read, it was in the midst of the New Stone Age, which was a transformative era where humans were transitioning from nomadic lifestyles to settled agricultural communities. So, if you think about the energy of what I've been talking about, that's when we moved to sedentary lifestyles, if you like, and to actually tilling the earth and growing things. But it was a time of community, and I'm not suggesting that we are going to give up farming and things. I do think we are going to find new ways of farming. I do think that we are going to discover clean energy and but healthier ways of living with the earth.
Mm-hmm.
But in this period that really began the complete descending age of the Great Age, we kind of felt like we had power over the earth, right? We humans, that is. So, a little bit more detail about the different cultures, about how people started living in huts where they hadn't done before, and what they were growing. And there was the early Sumerian settlements, and anybody who's studied the history of astrology knows that a lot of the myths and astrology came from Sumerian myths initially. So there was all these things kind of really worked together, and a lot of these things were, written by the patriarchs, or created by the patriarchs, because we're really creating the myth of how we live, if you like. I think humans are okay. The stars,
and Neptune. Yeah, Neptune speaks to that bigger myth, and how we understand ourselves in the context of the cosmos it can be reimagined with this conjunction.
It can. Yeah, and I think we have an amazing, and I see it happening. I think you do, Marina. We've talked before about it. A lot of old myths are being rewritten, or rewritten from a different perspective, and people are exploring, science wise, like I said, clean energy, things like that, but also quantum physics. A lot of scientists are realizing that what they thought was empirical science is not quite as empirical as they thought. It doesn't mean all of the empirical kind of scientific rules just don't work. It means there's often that little unknown quantity, and they realize that a lot of the cosmos is plasma or dark matter, or whatever they want to call it, and that everything really is kind of bouncing off each other, and it's how we work with it that kind of creates how we live.
Right. So it's more than just our it's more than woo-woo, right? It's how we're learning more about how science and how that objective phenomena work.
Yeah, we really are, and because I try and read everything. I've read books on quantum physics and listened to quantum scientists, but I've also read, like, there's a great book called The Flip, by his name is Kripal, Kripal, and he talks about he's actually a professor of religious studies, but he talks about humanities and science. And at one time they were integrated, and they've, like everything else over the last descending age, has become very or we've believed that everything is separate, and it isn't. So, and this applies to astrology as well, right? We've kind of had these tables of dignities and these polarities where everything is seen as very opposite, whereas really they all kind of come together in the middle on kind of a spectrum, right?
Yeah, it is, right, a spectrum, and you see the two sides of the same coin with the different polarities and how they work together. And how our relationship with our experience in the objective universe is like not separate, right? We interact with it. Yeah.
And so even little things like the butterfly effect. I think a lot of people have heard of that. The butterfly flips its wings, say where I am in Utah, and on the other side of the world it ripples out, and something shifts as well. And I think more and more people are beginning to realize that at an individual level as well, with the rise in manifestation, talk of manifestation and mind magic, and abundance creation and things like that. We're realizing that if we kind of shift how we look at things and work with energies, we can shift things slightly, so over time. Anyway, so these are all the history things. I'm not going to read them all again, but we domesticated animals, and it just reached the point, as we know, where it reached factory farming, and really treating the earth and living beings quite cruelly as well, more and more, you know, as we believed we had power over, but we're also separate from all of this. Okay. Yeah.
Getting
So
we've kind of reached the point of maximum separation, and yeah, it's not sustainable. Yeah,
it really isn't. But the good thing is that people are beginning to realize that as well.
yeah.
So
And that's what we're talking about here, is that is we're in that process. If it really feels like thing like time is accelerating. Does it feel that way to you? Like
oh
every day can pack in more than the previous day. But
hugely. Yeah. And you know, I know that this might be a bit mind blowing for some listeners, but I just invite them to kind of soak up the energy. I mean, my own personal astrology is just like off the charts for seeing this big picture. Okay, right now, all the aspects and things. So it's like, you know, I just walk every day and have these like, oh my God, that's another part of it. Oh, you know, so I'm trying to put it together in a way that people might at least get a sense of where we're at. Okay, and
yeah,
where we're
you're doing a
going.
great job. I love it.
Thank you. So, Hindu yugas. So these are various ancient cosmologies. They also have a similar mythology, I guess, or belief about this precession, this age. Now, they all have slightly different dates, but that's okay to my mind because, you know, I don't, like I said, I don't believe that an age ends and another one begins. I think they kind of, you know, fade in, fade out. Okay.
It's a transition.
Yeah. So the Hindu yugas. In Hindu cosmology, the yuga cycle tracks the gradual decline of dharma, which is righteousness, across 4 distant epochs, which is each epoch is those 3 ages, to go back to where we're at now at the end of that last epoch. So they have these yugas. The Satya Yuga is the golden age, which is where we're going towards, which is an era of spiritual perfection, truth, and long human life. Now, I did interview Bibhu Dev Misra, who wrote Yuga Shift on my YouTube channel, and he found evidence that people have actually, people's lifespan did actually lessen in this last 3 ages over time. And there are stories in the Bible of people living for, you know, a heck of a long time. There's Methuselah and people like that. So there's, you know, there's all these stories that people lived a lot longer than we did at one time, and that they, you know, kind of were happier, shall we say. But then we have the Silver Age, where virtue declined by 1/4. This is what the Hindu yugas say. And mental and physical powers began to wane. And then the Bronze Age, virtue is halved. This are the yugas terms for it. And suffering and disease appeared as materialism started to really grow. So that's that sense of separatism and that we can own stuff and control stuff. And then the last stage, the Kali Yuga, which is the Iron Age, interestingly, because, you know, the Iron Age is an actual kind of age as well. So this is the current, as they call it, degenerate age of spiritual ignorance, conflict, and shorter lifespans. And you, I don't know about you, Marina, but even in, you know, in these big terms, in my short life, you know, I look back at what I was born into, and you know, what I was kind of taught, the culture, and where I'm at now, as I've leaned into, you know, personal and spiritual growth. I look back, I think I was pretty ignorant back then, right?
Yeah. I think we've collectively come a long way. And so when you talk about the I forget what term you use, but kind of the degeneration, what time frame are we talking about, just to make sure I'm clear here?
Well, according to the Hindu yugas, we've been slowly degenerating since that last Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 4,600 and whatever it was, 601 BCE. But it speeds up at the end of the age.
Yeah.
And
interesting.
Yeah. And this is what they say. So, there's been a few more modern interpretations of the timing of these ages. So this is one guy, if anybody wants to look them up. This is Bibhu Dev Misra, who wrote Yuga Shift, who I interviewed. He had a very specific date. He said the Kali Yuga ended on March the 21st, 2025. I don't personally think it's as simple as that, but I get his point about the whole thing. But then the Hopi as well had a very similar story. They've described humanity's journey, and they call it through successive worlds. And each world got destroyed when people forgot their spiritual connection. So according to the Hopi, the first world, which would have been the Golden Age, was destroyed by fire. The second world destroyed by ice, which is interesting because about halfway through the precessional cycle was the Great Ice Ages. Okay, so and the third world destroyed by a great flood, and the fourth world, the current world, which the Hopi believe is nearing a great purification before transitioning into a harmonious fifth world. They haven't, as far as I could find, they didn't say how the old world's purified. So
we'll find out.
Yeah, I guess we will. So, and again, they relate those shifts to a roughly 26,000 year cycle of change, which is the astrological precessional cycle. So,
and then so that 26,000 year cycle, where do we fall in that, and where does that
we're at the end of the fourth world. Before transition, or we're starting already to transition into the harmonious fifth world, which in some ways is back to the start of the first world. So, but not quite the same, as we know. It never is exactly the same, because
so the 26,000 year cycle is the 5 worlds.
So no, it's the 4. It's the 4 worlds.
So we're starting over again.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, we're starting over again, just as we're going into the age of Aquarius again. Astrologically, about 26,000 years ago again, roughly.
Yeah. This is a big deal.
It is, yeah. So this just talks about the current Western zodiacal ages. So it's based on the constellation the sun rises in on the vernal equinox, which is why there's the 0 Aries point. And then this is very technical astronomy, but as I mentioned, we are leaving the age of Pisces, which has been the last 2100 to 2200 years. Okay. And we are transitioning into the age of Aquarius again, like 26,000 years ago. The Mayan calendar used a similar thing. They had different start dates, and Greek myths even described 5 ages. So it kind of mirrored a little bit the Yuga system. They don't all match up exactly, but they all had this kind of description of moving from a golden age, gradually becoming stupider, as Bibhu Dev Misra said, and then we're going to start again. So, but we're kind of at the end of the most degenerate age, as the Hindus called it. So,
Yeah, but I think we're feeling though that creative possibility. It's like a seed, right, inside of us and in us collectively. Like we can envision different ways of doing things.
We can.
And so, yeah, it's really exciting.
And also conversely, we are seeing some of the worst of humanity being revealed.
Exactly.
I won't go into detail. I'm sure everybody's very well aware of what we're seeing.
Right.
But
right.
So
But within that, I mean, you could see what you're calling what was his name who called it the stupider and stupider.
That was Bibhu Dev Misra who said that. Yeah.
You could see that, but you can also see within that the waking up and the possibilities.
And I think we kind of had to see it to help us to wake up.
In the bigger picture. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why, as horrible as some of the things are, I don't despair. I'm just thinking, well, it was kind of there for quite a long time.
It really was. And that kind of makes sense, to think that these things have been below the surface and now they're surfacing so we can see and address them.
And say no more.
Yeah.
I think we will over time.
Happening.
Yeah. Okay. So, one back. So, to go back to that Aries point, the 0 degrees of Aries, where this Saturn-Neptune conjunction is this time. So, it's regarded as one of the most potent degrees in the zodiac. It's called the Aries point, also often known as the point of creation. It does symbolize a gateway of renewal and rebirth, just on a yearly basis. It's often seen as the astrological new year, particularly in the northern hemisphere where most of our cosmology was formed. But I think even in the southern hemisphere, even though it's kind of their autumn equinox, I do think they still see the 0 point as astrologically a new year, I think. I'm not quite sure. I'd have to ask Julia Simmers or an Australian about that. But so, there are various interpretations of this point on both a personal level and the bigger level, but it's often seen as a point of public visibility and fame. Because it's often associated with an outrush of energy into the public sphere. So people with planets or angles at that degree often indicates potential for higher visibility in some way or making a significant impact on society in some way. And my South Node is at 0 Aries, so there you go. So here I am trying to explain this whole big picture to everybody. But
very helpful.
Yeah, cool. So, because it's the very start of the zodiac, our zodiac, which is the circle of animals, we are moving from zodiac-wise. Currently, we are moving from the last sign of the zodiac into the new Saturn and Neptune. Well, Neptune's already moved to Aries. Saturn's about to move to Aries from Pisces. That is a big threshold of change, Pisces to Aries as well. And it always is. But, when slower moving or big hitter planets, as they say, when they move together, it makes it even more potent, right? So, but that 0 degree is really kind of the spark of life. So it moves from an inner subjective quality to an outer manifest reality. So it's called a critical degree in no matter what, no matter whether you're talking about personal people's astrology or the big picture astrology or mundane astrology of events. It does carry a very fresh quality where the planet's nature is expressed in its most undiluted form. So it can often initially act with a sense of naivety, but not in a I don't mean in a way where we might go, oh, you're so naive, but it's that naive kind of looking at possibilities and that sense of discovery, and that kind of like opening your eyes to the sense of, oh, we could do something new with this. Okay.
The brand new.
Yeah.
It makes me think of if you've ever seen a newborn baby and just the way they look around, just like that sense of wonder and curiosity. And so we're having that with how the energy is shifting and what is becoming possible.
We really are, and I think we're feeling it already, because we do know that Saturn and Neptune moved briefly into Aries last year, and the actual point of conjunction is big, but it's also a process, of a lot of things shifting, but it's still big. So anyway, but I'm just trying to express that people might not wake up on the day of the conjunction.
Right. It's not like you flip a switch and everything changes. It is very much a process. And just I want to kind of bring out something you're saying here and about outer planets both. So what's happening is that Saturn is shifting into Aries and Neptune is shifting into Aries, both independently, and then they're coming together in their cycle at the same time. Both planets are shifting into Aries, and this feels very significant.
It does. And without going too far into the weeds and the woods for people who are not astrologers, we've got other outer planets changing signs as well, and that all emphasizes to me what I'm trying to say about the great age of moving into something that has not been felt by humans for 26,000 years, basically. So, but there's more even to say about that. So the 0 point is also known as a universal threshold, serves as a portal. This is from Astrology University, who Tony Howard runs that. This point serves as a portal connecting the collective to the individual, because Pisces is the collective, Aries the individual. So it's often used in mundane astrology, the astrology of events, to forecast major global shifts and events that impact the world at large. No matter what is happening at 0 Aries, there's lots of instances of that. So Aries is also the I am archetype. It kind of embodies the raw assertion of the self. And it's less about a specific personality and more about the archetypal hero or heroine energy, I'm going to say, or pioneer spirit. It's that courageous force, really, to take a risk, cross a threshold and say, yes, we can create something new. And so I just wanted to give a couple of other dates. So I just wrote my book on Ceres. Self-published it last year, and I found when researching the book that back in 1823, Venus, Ceres, and Pluto all met at 0 Aries, and then on March the 20th, 2033, we'll have the final Venus star point, which is the Sun-Venus conjunction in Aries for over 100 years, and that is a big cycle as well. Now then, those points to me suggest that I think we've been moving into this new age since the discovery of Uranus, right? Uranus was the first planet visibly discovered after Saturn. Until that point in 1781, Saturn was the only visible, that was the outer visible planet. It was the boundary, which is a very Saturnian word, of our visible known cosmos. Now then, that's in this age. Who knows what the ancients 26,000 years ago knew of, but since 1781, Uranus is kind of the boundary breaker. He wakes people up in many ways. Then we had Ceres discovered, then other so-called asteroids. Then we've had Neptune, and Pluto was not discovered till 1930, and now we know of all kinds of other planetary bodies. But those discoveries, to me, and I'm not suggesting we have to include them all in everybody's natal chart because it's just overwhelming, but they're also representative of this beginning expansion of consciousness as our known universe. We knew more about it, our consciousness and knowledge expanded, right, and our understanding.
Yeah.
Is that clear enough, you think, for
yeah our awareness of what lies beyond the known is the beginning of the process of expanding. And it's almost like we, in recent centuries, have, our science has grown and expanded, and our knowledge has grown and expanded really quickly if you see how technology has changed. And at the same time, it's like our mythology hasn't kept up with that, right? Our ability to integrate, our ability to remain whole, and to incorporate these things into our social values, and it's like we need to catch up.
I that's a great way to put it. We need to catch up, because it's our known cosmos, and like the knowledge of quantum physics and all that kind of thing has expanded so fast. And at first we, after 1781, we had the Industrial Revolution, like the energy of control and things also expanded really fast. As I said, like we needed to see the shadow before we could find a different way.
Yes, totally.
So
yeah,
I mean, I could go into way different weeds and things, but I don't want to.
There are lots of rabbit holes we could explore.
Oh, there are. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, just a little bit about that descent of the last 3 ages. So really, that conjunction back in 4361 BCE, I tried to sum it up a little bit. It initiated a set descent. The divine was slowly removed from the earth and locked into rigid earthly hierarchies, which is Saturn. And the earth could be said to be Neptune, or that interconnectedness with all that lives on the earth, rather. So today's conjunction, I believe, represents the dissolving of those old walls, and we're starting to see the sacred return to the mundane and bringing the goddess or nature back into the structures of our daily lives. So we're moving from power over to power with, whereas 3 ages ago, that conjunction seeded the Aries shadow, the warrior, the conqueror, the patriarchal ego. This cycle is rebooting Aries. It's no longer about the lone soldier. It's about the spiritual warrior who protects the collective and acts with empathy. Okay.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So in Hinduism as well, this is called the Great Breath. It's referred to as, I'm probably going to say the words wrong, the Pranvantara and Pralaya, the out-breath and the in-breath of the cosmos. Because it does, these cycles are like out and in breaths. These 26,000 year cycles are like that. In my second book, The Complete Guide to Astrology, I tried to get away from the words masculine and feminine because I was asked to write it from a non-binary perspective, because non-binary people felt that astrology books did not speak to them. And I described the cycle around the zodiac, the horoscope, the natal chart, whatever you want to call it, as like a in-breath, out-breath, in-breath, out-breath. It's like this constant pulsing, right?
What a great way, to reconfigure that. Right. And then it's not, there's no judgment to it, right? It's just the movement in and out.
Because in the morning we usually take a deep breath in and do the day, and then in the end of the day we're going to breathe out and go to sleep, kind of rest.
Right. So. Every day we have the night and day polarity.
Exactly. So anyway, our current chaos though isn't a fall as we might have imagined it. I think it's the labor pains of an ascending consciousness. I found lots of evidence of that, but I could be here forever talking about that. But I think we're moving from the age of believing, which is very Pisces, trusting, faith, believing, into an age of knowing, or you could call it more the age of understanding more than knowing. Pick your words, right? That feels, I'm not saying my words are right. It's just that energy. So, and I think, again, we're starting to see that already. We know as humans collectively, we're moving out of this blind faith in our institutions and the churches and things like that into this age of personal understanding and knowing, which is very different, but it's taking time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the age of believing, and also putting your faith in something external. And that's what it feels like to me with the shift into the age of Aquarius, is we're kind of reclaiming our capacity to know. And so that the age of knowing makes sense to me.
And that's why, I use knowing or understanding both ways, because I think you and I talked about it when you were on my YouTube, that, we're realizing that really it's everything that we understand within ourselves and how we respond to the world outside that's shifting. Therapy is shifting that way. Astrology as a healing art is shifting that way. We can't control anything really out there. We can only control how we respond, react, and how we move within to understanding ourselves. So anyway, but okay, so did I go 2 again? How to ride the shift. I just wanted to give people a little bit of guidance, because I know this time is really challenging, and I kind of talk about these things all the time on every video I do and with my clients. But I'm just saying we're moving from a time of belief to a time of practice. And so the advice really from me is to stop waiting for a sign and start your own personal spiritual daily rituals, whether it's meditation, dream journaling, gardening, walking is one of mine. Something that gives your connection with and spiritual values a physical container, so you can tune in to yourself and the world around you, and also embody the spiritual warrior. Try to make sure that you're acting with integrity, but also vulnerability. Real courage in this new age we're moving into isn't about aggression. It's about the bravery to show your true self and to stand up for the interconnectedness of life. And we're seeing things like that even with, Brene Brown's books on vulnerability and things like that. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and be yourself. Be who you are. Yeah.
Yeah. And do all that you can to tune into self-acceptance and loving who you are, because you're perfect the way you're made, Yeah, we can try and be the best person we can be and have the most integrity, but you are who you are still. So, and no person is inherently bad, I don't believe. It's just how they've lived their soul.
Yeah.
So, in this real difficult time, though, really radical self-reliance and autonomy is important. Okay, it's not about, you talked about the external religious authorities, and also there's the political authorities. This is about trusting your internal authority and clarifying your personal boundaries, and trust your felt sense and intuition as well before looking for any confirmation outside. And so as the old patriarchal structures hollow out, because they are doing, there's many of us feeling very lost, disillusioned, confused, downright down a lot of the time. But try and view all of this as fertile soil, and don't be afraid to start small. I do see amongst clients and just people, everybody thinks that we have to all do everything. We can't. One small consistent act of many will bring in this new cycle, right?
Yeah, you're echoing something that I say quite a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I think we
Yeah.
very much align on these
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. The
Now
the
then, but
individual small acts add up.
oh, they really do.
Yeah.
Even if it's donating to the food bank or whatever, volunteering, whatever, anything, little things. Now, but what of astrology itself? So I'm kind of on a bit of a mission to kind of change astrology itself a little bit, because even if we look back at Vedic and Jyotish astrology and, the founding of modern astrology in the West, that we are really, it's pretty much all based on the descending energies where, men wrote the myths. you know, Everything was defined from this descending consciousness, really. Mars has been portrayed as the god of war. He's just been like really had anything else taken out of him. Whereas even in the known earlier myths, he was also the guardian of the grain. He was a guardian as well as god of war. But, we could start to talk about Mars more now as the life force or the sacred defender, for example, because, Mars is our will and our action. And if we keep telling ourselves it's our life force and the sacred defender, then that's what Mars will be.
Love that.
Right?
I love it. You're telling
So,
a new mythology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I
Yeah.
have another book in the planning, but there you go. Anyway, and so Venus. These are just examples. So she's been portrayed for centuries, and not always in the very ancient past, but as really just goddess of beauty and love. Very sweet. In Vedic astrology, she's named Sukra, which is like sugar. She's like. Whereas really she is a great attractor, you could call her. She's Venus in astrology is very much about manifestation and the law of attraction, the natural law of attraction. So really she is a force of cohesion that holds the universe together. So pick different names for her, when you're talking about her. So Saturn, the Grim Reaper and the Taskmaster. We touched on Saturn earlier. Wisdom Keeper, Bone Mother. There's lots of new names we could give Saturn as well. Personally, I would love to rename the planets, but that's probably not going to happen. But anyway.
One step at a time.
Yeah. Oh, my mind goes way forward. But, rediscovering the so-called dark goddesses, because the patriarchal descent suppressed the powerful feminine by labeling it dark or evil. So, and we're seeing this reclaiming the goddesses over time. there's a magical new book out that I've listened to 3 times called Hecate by a fabulous poet called Nikita Gill, Gill. All these myths are being rewritten. There's several of them. Anyway, you could find them. But so it's essential that we start, rewriting these myths, So, but also, these are not minor bodies. I think we need to get away from relying on the astronomical, hierarchical descriptions of planetary bodies.
Yeah.
Just in all ways. So here's some more ideas. But of course, the Great Mother, which in some ways is Ceres, was split into the Virgin and the Whore. Now we're realizing the wholeness of this feminine energy. Okay. That is in all of us. Okay.
Yeah.
So, the golden age of the past, though, 26,000 years ago, I'm suggesting, of course, we have very little knowledge of what was actually happening then. So, but, I believe that we are spiraling. Our consciousness is spiraling upwards and outwards. It doesn't mean it's any better. It's just more awareness, more expansion. So, but I feel like the past start of the golden age, where we were 26,000 years ago, was a bit more like unconscious harmony, a bit like the myths of the Garden of Eden almost, Whereas now our awareness or consciousness is expanded. So now it's more conscious harmony. We've kind of grown up in some ways over 26,000 years. So we're not returning. We're not going to go back to living in caves and things is basically it. It's just we need to create new myths and new ways of living. So, and what exactly that looks like, I don't know. But I think we also need a new geometry in astrology, from hierarchy to holarchy, I've called it. So, astrology is often top down. Sun is king, for example. Well, why is the energy of the sun really any more powerful than any other part of you? So,
it isn't.
In some ancient cosmologies, I think in ancient Egyptian astrology, the sun and moon had both male and female energies in them. So, so it's a rebalancing, really, and viewing the chart, whether it's a person's birth chart or an event chart or whatever horoscope you're looking at, as a living ecosystem. I would love to ditch the term rulership, hierarchical. It's all a big feedback loop that works together. So it's more network than pyramid. So I know it's going to take some changing, but I think Marina is already in on that anyway. So whoops. So I'll just go back to this. So this is kind of my conclusion, really, in brief. So this conjunction is a major part of the turning of the ages. It's not the turning of the ages. I do think that began back in 1781-ish and has been kind of being activated over and over again. But all cosmologies agree that we're entering a golden age. And before I studied all of that, just looking at the astrology kind of gave me the sense that we are moving into a better age as well. So I believe astrology itself will change to reflect this. And I believe the turning of the great age began with Uranus, as I said, and we're nearing the end of the transitional period, and a massive integrated shift in consciousness is emerging.
It's emerging. And the series is called Emergence.
I know.
And I just love what you're saying, because what it makes me think of is that we are in the process of not just going through the birth canal, but we are also simultaneously the ones giving birth. And none of this would be happening if we weren't responding to the need for change.
Yes.
And so each of us has our own role to hold space for the transition, and we don't know what we're becoming, we don't know what we're creating. And
Yep.
that's the exciting part.
It is.
But we
And
are
some are, you know, a little bit ahead in, I would call it, awareness rather than consciousness. I don't think there's a hierarchy to that. Some people are, you know, perhaps more in fear still, so they're not ready to kind of expand, you know, their perceptions, whatever. But people who are aware and can trust that we are co-creating literally our future can kind of pull the others along a little bit too, right?
absolutely, that's part of the work. It's a big part of the work. So yeah, and not pulling in the sense of controlling, but you know, maybe the way you role model, the way you live your life, the choices you make, the possibilities you envision, all of it.
It's just like shining the torch, really, and saying, you know, if you want to, kind of follow. Yeah, follow the nudges. So it's not about anybody being better than anybody else. Just some people are kind of they became aware sooner than others, and that's probably showing in their astrology, you know, for example. Right. So
yeah. So we all though have this ability to respond from where we're at and to follow the spark that and the way that it is leading us from within. And so beautiful.
Yeah. So I hope, well, my hope for this is, thank you for the opportunity to, you know, pull some ideas together that have been, you know, it's so big, it's hard to. So thanks for the opportunity to try and pull it all together to show people that, you know, we were kind of born for this moment, really, and it's okay, you know, even when the world feels like really dark sometimes.
Yeah. Do you want to just stop your screen share and then we can wrap up? Yeah. Well, that is so amazing, Louise, and so helpful and enlightening. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. Very well organized and really provides some good guidance for understanding where we're at and how we can meet the moment, really.
Yeah, and I've never pulled it all together in one presentation like that before. I've kind of talked about a lot of these things here and there, you know.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Yeah, I can tell it's the conjunctions on my south node. There you go, in my third house.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So tell us where people can learn more about you and what you've got going on.
Well, my website is louiseedington.com or Cosmic Owl Astrology. If you Google that, you can find me anywhere. I did mention I self-published my book on series last year. I do have a 2-day series immersion coming up on March 21st, 22nd. And there's an early bird rate by February the 22nd. So you can find that on my website. It's going to be quite deep because I am a shamanic guide as well, so we'll be working shamanically with Ceres, which is very of the divine feminine, right? So, and we'll be looking at Ceres in people's charts and in the collective as well. So yeah, and there's bonuses, you get kind of all kinds of bits with it. So check that out and join us.
Very cool. Yes, definitely check that out. And Louise, this talk will have a page where you can share and comment and learn more about Louise. And that will be at transformationalastrology.com, which is where you can go to sign up for advanced viewing on these videos, see what's coming up, and join us to participate in this conversation. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Louise. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I'll see you next time.